What's going on, everybody? It is Greg Adams, the coach, back here for my second installment of the Bounce Back Podcast. Now, just in case you missed my first podcast, please take a moment and go back and listen to get an idea of what's coming ahead. Now, today, what we're going to talk about is making a major change in your life. And this relates to my history and what I went through, but it also relates to what I intend to go through. So we're going to talk about that because I know a lot of people that I work with and that I've worked with in the past has this very same issue. And I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that may come ahead with making a change in your life because I've done this, and some of the things that you have to do and the mindset you have to be in to make that change. Now, to get into it, we're going to get right into this one. If you want to make a major change in your life, you have to get naked. You're going to have to get naked and show yourself. You're going to have to reveal yourself. Now, one thing I want everyone to do that's listening to this podcast right now, if you have the ability to do this, I want you to get naked. I want you to get naked with me. Just take everything off. Now, if you are in your car, headed to work, listening to this podcast, if you're in your office and you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to just for right now, don't get naked. Don't take no clothes off. Keep all your clothes on. And I want you to just listen. But if you're at home and you're nice and comfy, nobody can see you, or nobody that can see you that would care, just go ahead and take your clothes off, because that's the first thing you're going to have to do. You're going to have to strip down, because I want you to ask yourself this one question. You want to make a major change in your life. You're going to have to ask yourself, what are you willing to lose, or what are you willing to sacrifice to get what you want, to make that change? Because the reality is you cannot have change and keep your clothes on. So if I want to change my clothes, I can't keep the same clothes that I have on and put on the new clothes. What am I going to have to do? I'm going to have to get naked. And I'm going to have to put the new clothes on. I'm going to have to make the change. So in order to make that change, you have to be willing to lose something. You have to be willing to give something up. You're going to have to be willing to sacrifice something. I know far too many people. Now, listen, I deal with fitness clients. And in my past, I've dealt with basketball players, all right, who I've coached. And I coached for probably 18, 19 years. Then I also deal with people who are wanting a change in their life. And they bring me on as a coach to help them navigate their way through this change. The one thing that I know, the one thing that is constant in these individuals who I work with, they always want to stay the same as they are. They never want to give up a major item in their life. They never want to make a major sacrifice, but they want a significant change on the backside. And my philosophy is you cannot do that. And if you attempt to do that, you're going to be disappointed. Because not only may the change not even happen, but what's going to happen is if there is a change, it's going to take way too long and the change might not even be worth it at that particular point. Now, let me give you a brief synopsis of how I got here and why you're listening to this podcast. For me, I used to be a college basketball coach. And I used to coach high school, and I started off coaching 5th and 6th grade girls in junior varsity high school girls basketball. Now, eventually, my dream was to be a college basketball coach. But the one thing I didn't have is major playing college basketball experience. My only experience extended to just a little bit of high school basketball and a little bit of junior college basketball. But I wanted to coach Division I high-level college basketball. And a lot of people told me that's not going to happen. Now, over the years, what happened was I made changes, I made sacrifices, I volunteered myself, which was a major sacrifice, to be able to put myself in a position to audition for college basketball coaching positions. And making those sacrifices got me to a certain level. And each level I got to, I made another sacrifice. Until I became a Division I major assistant at a Division 1A, what they call Division 1A basketball. I was at the Division 1A basketball level, and I was a top assistant by the age of 25, recruiting players all across the nation. And some of my players were ranked in the top 50 players in the country. And I was going after them. Didn't care what school I represented. I went after them just like I would go after any other player. Now, what eventually happened is I wanted another change in my life. I had to shift. I had wanted to be a head coach at the college level. And what I had to do was shift and become a head coach at the Division II level. And what I wanted to do was turn the program around in order to audition for maybe a major Division II or a minor league Division I program and be a head coach there. Unfortunately, and this is where the major change happened in my life, unfortunately, my audition failed. It was an unmitigated disaster. My college coaching record at that particular point, I don't even know what it is, but it's disastrous. And my plan to be a Division I head coach went into the gutter. But what I had to do was I knew since this was my major audition and I wasn't going to get it, could I get another chance or did I have to make a major shift in my life? And what I decided was I needed to make a major shift in my life. I had a young family, I had young children, and I decided to go into fitness training because I can have a little more control over my life. It made me way more independent, and I can have control over where I lived and what particular people that I worked for. But most of you guys know that when you make a change in careers, it is pretty difficult, especially if you have to make that career change and you're not in the place that you want to be location-wise. And that was the situation that I was in. If any of you guys know, if you leave the state of California, and I'm from the state of California, if you actually leave the state of California and set yourself up in another state and then attempt to come back, financially, it is a wreck because the cost of living here in the Southern California area it's outstanding. I mean, it's just off the charts. And a lot of people, if they've never lived here and they came here to move, they moved here, they can't handle it. It's something that bites at them every month when they fill out their rent check. But I knew that the expenses to live here in Southern California was astronomical because I was from here. But at the particular time, I was in New Mexico and I wanted to move my family back to California. In order to do that, financially, I had to make a major sacrifice. I couldn't bring the family together. So I decided to leave the family there while my child finishes school and me go out ahead of them and set up my clientele, set up my business, and make that major change. But if you remember, in order to make that change, you have to make a sacrifice. You have to make a sacrifice. Now, before I continue with that story, I want you guys to think about this as well. And just to kind of set things straight, and I know the way that I talk is going to appeal to a certain person, and to some people, it's not going to appeal to them at all. Now, for me, I really don't care. I want to appeal. If I just appeal to one person, that is enough for me to continue doing these podcasts. Because for me, this is a conversation situation. This is just me talking it up with someone else. If the way that I talk doesn't appeal to you, then that's fine. You can find plenty other people who talk about the exact same thing that I'm talking about. And if you can get something different from them, then by all means, continue to listen to them and you will prosper. But listen to something. But if you do like the way that I talk and communicate, then we can continue on and we can roll with it. But what I don't want to do is sound preachy or like I'm talking to motivate you. This is just how I get my message across. And none of these are from notes. So this is straight directly from my head. But I just like to get my message across because I know in the particular business that I work in, this is what I do all day. I do this all day long. And it's not just with fitness clients. It's not just with my basketball clients and players that I coach. It's not just the people that I coach in life. This is what I do all day long. This is what I do with my children. This is the tone of voice that I use. But I don't want to sound preachy, and I don't want to sound like I'm trying to fire you up. But I want you to think about this. When we're talking about making that major change, we're talking about getting naked. We're talking about giving up something. I want you to think about something. If you think you're going to regret anything that you could lose while you make that change, you are not ready for that change. Now listen, I'm going to say it again. If you think you're going to regret anything that you could lose while you make that change, you're not ready to make that change. Now, let's talk about that. If you are going along the way and you lose something that you possibly could not imagine losing, but ahead, you see the change ahead. You see that if you keep up with this commitment 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you could dramatically save and change your life. But you look back and you say, man, but I don't want to give up that one thing that can hold me back from the change, but I don't want to give it up. And that could be friends. That could be your home. That could be your family. That could be your marriage. That could be the relationship with your children. If you're not willing to look back at that and say that that is a win, then you're not ready for the change. Because like I said, in order to make the change, you have to get naked. You have to be willing to lose something. If you're one of my fitness clients and you come in and you tell me, I want to lose X amount of pounds. I want to change my body to look like this. However, I don't want to do that to do it. I don't want to lift a heavy amount of weight to do it. I don't want to run on a treadmill to do it. I don't want to give up time in my day to do it. I don't want to pay X amount of dollars, your rate, Mr. Trainer, to do it. I want to pay this much. Well, guess what? What I advise them to do at that particular point is find another way to make that change or find another goal, because you're not ready to do it. You're not ready to make that change. You're not ready to get naked. For the basketball players that I've coached, if any of you guys have ever coached sports on any level, it's all the same. High school, youth basketball, youth sports, college level, professional level, it's all the same. A lot of the players are not happy in the position that they're in at that point. Some players are coming off the bench. They want more minutes. Some players don't get any playing time. They want to just get off the bench. Some players are starters. They want to be the league MVP. And they'll come to you and they'll ask you, what can I do to make that change? What can I do to be the league MVP? What can I do to get myself into the game, coach? And what I tell them is the exact same thing that I'm talking about here. You have to be willing to sacrifice something. You have to be willing to lose something. I don't tell them to get naked, because that would get me into a lot of trouble. But what I do tell them is, what are you willing to sacrifice for that? You think you're going to be able to just come to practice and leave and not put in any more hours on the court in order to achieve whatever that goal is? I don't care what talent level you are, you're going to have to do more. You're going to have to wake up early. You're going to have to go to sleep late. You're going to have to sacrifice something, time with your friends, time with your boyfriend or girlfriend. What is it that you're willing to sacrifice to do that? Now, if they can't come up with anything, if they can't come up with something that they're going to sacrifice, and they want to maintain the same lifestyle that they currently have, they want to keep their clothes on, then they are not ready. I've said the same thing about me being a millionaire. I said this back when I was in college. We were in the airport and I was traveling. Actually, I was traveling with a basketball team, and it was a few members of our staff talking about winning the lottery. And I said this back then. I said, look, I don't want to win the lottery because I'm not ready to have that type of money yet. And that was seriously my mindset. I was not ready. I think I was 23 years old. I had just got out of college. I had a lot of student loan debt. I was working a job that paid probably $25,000 a year. And I did not want to win $1 million. Isn't that crazy? You just think about that. It doesn't make sense. However, it makes a lot of sense when you think about the fact that if I wasn't ready to have that type of money, it would be a waste to have it. Why would I have that type of money and I'm going to blow it? I don't understand how money works. I don't know how investments work. I don't trust people who are going to come into my life when I have that type of money. I'm not going to trust the women who are going to be involved in my life. I'm going to have to understand what my circle of friends looks like. And I wasn't ready to make that change. Now, once you're ready to make a change like that, once you're ready to accept that type of money and you realize you're not going to spoil it and waste it, then you're ready to make that change. Now, today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to announce I'm ready for that lottery winning to hit my hands. I'm ready for that $1 million. All right. So when you see that lottery ticket, and you see that winning number hit my hands, just know that I am ready. All right. I'm already naked. I'm ready to make that change, and I'm willing to sacrifice whatever it takes to make that change. Going back to my story, I had a young family. I had young children who were just entering elementary school, and I was making a major change in our family's life. But it required me to leave and go ahead to start my business as an independent fitness trainer in Newport Beach, California, where if you've ever been to Orange County, California, this is probably the most expensive zip code in the state, all right, or in Southern California. And I was coming to live there and start my business there. But I believed in myself 100%. And if you know anything about me, I believe in myself. I believe in my ability to do something, and I will put my mind to it. Once I put my mind to it, I'm going to execute that plan. But I need everybody on board. I need everybody ready to witness. I need everybody on deck ready to help. So me going ahead would require me to make one major sacrifice. I would not have a roof over my head. I would not have a hotel room. I would not have a bed to sleep on. I was going to live in my car until the right time to bring my family out, until it was the right time to bring my family out. And not a lot of people would be willing to do that, to be honest with you. If I told you in order to reach your goal for the next 4 to 6 months, you're not going to have a house. You're not going to have a roof over your head. You're going to live in your car for as long as it takes to get to that goal. It might be 4 months. It might be 6 months. It might be a year. What most people would do is they would find someone that has a place for them to stay, and they'll stay there until they get to their goal. But you know what that does, to be honest with you? Do you know what that does to your ability to make that change? It delays it. It's going to delay your progress to make that change. You're not going to do it because there's a certain level of discomfort that you need in order to push you to hustle, grind, and get after whatever you need to get after. If you're sitting there in comfort, you can come home and you can get in your bed, get in a nice soft bed. You can turn on the cable TV. You can connect your Wi-Fi. You can get a nice shower. You can get all of that stuff. If that is your circumstance, what you'll do is you'll accept that level of comfort. You'll accept being in someone else's spot, and you'll stay there for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, however that long that is, because that's just enough comfort to get you to accept your circumstance. Now, for me, what I decided to do was live in my car. And I lived in my car. I used the bathroom outside. I made my meals at the park for the week and put a cooler in the back and had my meals for the week. Just enough food to get me through the week. I took showers at gyms and at the public storage restroom in the morning. I made the decision to live in my car. And if you guys remember, now a lot of people live in their car, but if you just remember, I was a Division II basketball coach, head basketball coach. I was on television. I was doing interviews. I was in control of 15 individuals who I had given scholarships with, and including the staff. I was the face of the program. And a month later, after I decided to make that major change in my life, a month later, I was living in my car, away from my family. And I had decided what I was willing to lose to make this work. When you're in that moment, a year seems like forever. When you're in that moment, 6 months seems like forever. Because you're looking at it going, man, here's the change. Here's where I am. Here's the change. How the hell am I going to be able to get there? 6 months seems forever away. 2 years seems forever away. But you know what seems more forever away? Is you staying the exact same way 2 years later and you haven't made that change, but you still desire it in your heart to be able to make that change. You want it so bad. You can just taste it. You can just smell it. You want it. But you're too fearful to make the change and you're not willing to sacrifice anything. So 2 years later, you're in the same spot. Wishing, hoping. In my situation, I can look back and it's been 6 years since I had my rear end in my Ford Explorer SUV, parking every night behind a hotel so I could steal their Wi-Fi. And 6 years later, I see the same people who I saw on the streets in the same predicament that they're in today. Now, some people can be in the same place. Like I know people that I went to high school with, they still live in the same area around their family. They might live in their family's home. Some people could do that. I don't live my life that way. I'm in constant change. And when I set myself and I set my mind on the goal, I look at it and I get to that goal. And when I get to that goal, I'll stay there for a little bit and I'll go into the next goal. And this is one of these steps that you're listening to today. I've been wanting to do this for 5 years because I knew what this meant for me in my life, and I knew what it means to other people in their lives. I want to help you realize you can make the change that you're desiring. But I want to let you know it is not going to be easy. You're going to have to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to get naked. All right. That's going to be the end of this podcast. This is going to be podcast number 2. The first one, which is a short one, will be podcast number 1. I'm going to continue this story with you guys because this story has a lot of twists and turns. And I want you to stay with it because I know you guys are doing the exact same thing in your lives that I already went through and that I am currently going through. Thanks again for listening to my podcast, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.